Oh shit, he's lagging! He's teleporting!
If you know me personally, then you might know that I'm not as big of a fan of Team Fortress 2 as I used to be. The game has seen way better days. Despite that, I still find myself coming back to TF2 from time to time and then immediately reminding myself why I no longer play this game as much. So when I saw that it was announced that TF2 is going to have an update size update, I didn't really expect much. Of course, the TF2 community being, well, the TF2 community, they proceeded to hype themselves despite the fact that an update size update could really mean anything, considering how vague it is. But of course, people expected a major update for some reason, despite the fact that on TF2's blog itself, useless updates such as updating localization files and fixing glitches that I haven't heard a single person complain about are also counted. After all of the Team Fortress 2 YouTubers speedrun hyping the ever-living shit out of their audiences, I guess the person who was updating the blog decided to stop the shit show before it got even more hyped, and corrected the post to say that there is going to be a holiday-sized update, which meant that they're going to add new community-made content that's themed around summer, which is nice since now we will get more original maps that are themed around Halloween and Christmas, giving mappers more to work with. Around that time I heard that there were these VScript vs Hale maps. Now, vs Hale is an old community game mode that is still somewhat popular on community servers to this day. In my opinion, it's the best community-made game mode in TF2. Now, VScript is something that allows map makers to implement new custom code into their maps, which means that you don't need to download some kind of plugins to play the game mode. So you can basically add new gameplay mechanics to your map, or a new game mode. There were some rumors about how this could mean that vs Hale could make it into TF2 as an official game mode, which brought back many memories for me. You see, back when this was the only game I could play on my PC, the most amount of fun I had on TF2 was playing Freak Fortress 2 on a server ran by one of my Steam friends. If you don't know what Freak Fortress 2 is, it's basically vs Hale but with more bosses. Me and that guy used to play on a community server running this game mode. However, it was very buggy and poorly balanced, and the server owner didn't really bother to fix or change anything. So that Steam friend of mine that I mentioned earlier decided to make his own Freak Fortress 2 server with better, newer plugins, and also made it way more balanced. I helped him test some things out from time to time, however it's nothing a bot with no pathfinding couldn't do, but I guess I didn't mind it since I was an actual person that could give my opinions. Now back to the summer update. Well, the people who speculated the vs Hale will be officially added to TF2 were right. They added vs Hale as an official game mode, let's fucking go! One small issue however. Everything worked fine, except the vs Hale maps. From what I've seen, every time the game would try to load vs Hale maps, it would crash. Now this was something to do with Valve's official service, since the Versus Hale maps were on the Steam Workshop months before the update was released. And I do recall seeing some footage of Versus Hale gameplay in action before the update. The only thing we were left with were just some regular maps and the seal, which, to be quite frank with you, I didn't give a shit about. Now don't get me wrong, they're good maps, but for the last 6 years all we got were just new maps and they just felt like filler to me. While these maps weren't reskins of already existing maps, they still felt like filler to me. And then there's the TF2 seal. Can somebody please explain to me why does this game's community lose its fucking mind over the most mundane fucking things? Like, the seal is cute and all, but you're telling me that so many of you are so amazed about a cute animal in the video game to the point where it was the only thing you could be fucking talking about. Have you not seen like a cute animal in real life? Like a puppy or a kitten? Whatever. Thankfully, after some time, my recommendations stopped being filled with the stupid fucking seal. Well, after some time I heard that Valve fixed the previously mentioned issue. I'm not going to lie, but I was pretty excited to try out this new version of Versus Hale, and it didn't work. Yeah, it turns out they fucked up again. Well, third time's the charm, I guess. Oh, look at that. They actually fucking fixed it. So, how's the new Versus Hale game mode? Man, this game mode is fun. Not only is it just as fun as I remember it, but it's also way more fleshed out as expected. Man, this game mode is fun. Not only is it as fun as I remember it, but it's also way more fleshed out as expected. Alongside that, the maps are very well designed, except Skirmish. Fuck Skirmish. For some of you, having well designed maps might be something normal, but man, you will not believe what kind of shit you would see in community servers of Versus Hale and Freak Fortress 2. They are usually maps that look nice but are a pain in the ass to play on. Or the opposite, they're the most boring looking pieces of shits ever, but they surprisingly work well with Versus Hale and Freak Fortress 2. However, still, many of them had some very questionable designs. For example, engineers 9% of the time would be a huge pain in the ass to deal with. They're usually not that hard to fight against, nor too easy as the boss. But some map makers said fuck you and decided to make spots on their maps that were meant for engineers to use and annoy the boss. Most of the time it would be some kind of choke point or a small space you would have to crouch through to get to the room where the engineers will set up. Now pull a couple of sentries and maybe a pyro or a demo man, and you get yourself a situation where the boss just has to sit there and wait for their stun or teleport ability to recharge and then go in and kill everybody. It's just a very It's just a very long and annoying game of rock, paper, scissors where you always know what your opponent is going to choose, but you have to wait for like 2 minutes to then choose the option that will win. Now let's get into the man, the myth, the legend himself, Saxton Hale. On most community servers, Hale would have a high jump. He could damage players by landing on them, and while his abilities depend based on what server you're playing on, the most common one I've seen is the stun ability. Hale would have a rage mirror that automatically fills up as time passes. It's very slow. However, the more damage Hale takes, the faster it fills up. And on some servers, getting air blasted would also significantly boost his rage mirror to deter pirates from just mindlessly air blasting Hale around. Once the rage mirror has filled, the player playing as Hale can trigger it by either taunting or calling for a medic. The most common ability is the one where Hale screams out of rage, stunning all mercenaries in a large radius. The stun is the same stun that the horseless headless horseman does. How the fuck did I say that so smooth? First try. So all the mercenaries are slower, can't use their weapons, and can't jump. Saxton Hale works quite differently now. Instead of having one ability or multiple abilities that depend on the same meter, Hale now has 3 abilities with 3 separate meters. Now all of his abilities recharge on a strict timer. Now let's get into those abilities. The first one up is the charged attack. This is basically the Demoman's shield charge on steroids. As the name suggests, it's an attack that you can charge up. It's activated by pressing or holding down the reload key. Now why is it a Demoman's shield charge on steroids, you might ask? Well, you can charge it to any direction, it deals a lot of damage compared to the Demoman's shield charge, and you can charge from multiple enemies. Also, you can charge into any direction, and while you are charging up the attack, you can barely move. I think I already mentioned that you can charge it to any direction. Never mind. However, Hale does get damage resistance while he is charging up the attack. This, in my opinion, has to be his most versatile ability. You can use it to break the enemy's formation, separating the mercenaries from each other, making it easier to kill them. In case you really want to kill a class, such as a medic or an engineer, but their team is trying to stop you from doing so, you can just use your charge punch to push through the enemy team and to hunt down the person you're trying to kill. Aside from that, it could be used to tear through engineers' buildings or to suddenly jump scare the enemy with the next ability that I'll get into. Or it could be used for some extra mobility, in case that the high jump that lets you cross half the fucking map wasn't enough. His second ability is the Saxton punch.
It was just a blank!
I'm gonna beat the living hell out of him!
He's coming!
It takes 30 seconds to recharge. This ability is very deadly, and because of that, every time it is recharged, Hale says a voice line and his left hand starts to glow red. So what's different about this punch? Well, Hale gets so mad that his punch makes an explosion in a wide area, dealing more damage, and of course, since it's an explosion, it deals splash damage. Oh yeah, while on the topic of splash damage attacks, from what I've noticed is regular punches have a small splash damage radius. Okay, back to the Saxton punch. It can be used to kill medics who aren't overhealed in one hit, and could be used to destroy any engineer buildings or anyone in your path very quickly. That, and it's also just funny to jump scare people with. Now when it comes to his third ability, it's the only one that isn't named in the game, so I'll just call it the ground slam or the ground pound.
Joel!
To trigger this ability, you need to jump high enough in the air and hold crouch. Once you've done that, Hale will defy the laws of physics and proceed to fall faster. If you keep holding down the crouch button until he lands on the ground, Hale will damage all mercenaries in a wide area. It could be used to break the enemy's formation, disorient them, soften up, tank your enemies, slow down babyface blaster scouts, or to finish off enemies. It is important to know that the whole defying gravity thing works even if the ability isn't ready. So with all this said, how does it feel to actually play him? Well, it feels like driving a new sports car after being able to drive nothing but a tuk-tuk for a year. He's faster than a babyface's blaster scout with maximum boost. He pretty much mows anything down in his path and has abilities that can very easily screw over mercenaries. It is important to know that the mercs have some tricks up their own sleeves. First of all, you'll quickly notice that all of the mercenaries have new voice lines added, and while they're not perfect, they're quite close to the original voice lines. In my opinion, the most accurate ones are Scouts, Engineers, and Medics' new lines. And yes, they do serve a gameplay purpose. They will automatically say a voice line when they spot Hale. If the medic died during the match, the mercs will say how they have no medics. And if nobody picked medic, funnily enough, the mercs will say how the medic didn't want to go with them or they just forgot to bring him with them. These voice lines really show that there was a lot of effort and passion put into making this feel like a game mode that Valve made for an update years ago. And I certainly think that they nailed that.
They say I should not dig my own grave. Fine, then I will dig your own grave.
What I also like is the fact that the voice lines also serve a gameplay purpose, aside from just adding some kind of extra flair. Heavies will say that they're low on ammo. As said, all classes call out to their teammates when Hale is nearby, etc. I think that this fits great since free-to-play skins pick, so in case that you're free-to-play heavy and you run out of ammo, the voice line could remind an engineer to build you a dispenser. Not that I've ever seen somebody actually get alerted by those voice lines, but still, it's pretty cool in my opinion. Although sometimes the voice lines that play when Hale is around might give away your position to Hale sometimes, and get you killed. Aside from that, the mercenaries can wall climb by hitting a wall with their melee weapon, allowing them to access more parts of the map. Oh yeah, and medics have some kind of crazy damage resistance. And pretty much everybody pulls out their melee weapon quicker than usual. Now the maps, while they're still good, they're kind of a mixed bag in my opinion. I'll go over them in order from worst to best in my opinion. Now I know that this might piss off some people, but in my opinion the worst one is Skirmish. Now when it comes to the visual design of this map, I think that it's great. It takes inspiration of Mercenary Park from the Jungle Inferno update. However, it's kinda worth jack shit since people found a way how to break out of bounds very quickly. Because of that, half the game would look like this.
Now, boy.
Shoot him!
This map has a bad habit of making places that are asking for like free engineers to set up there and annoy the Hale player, and while it did feel kinda nostalgic seeing bullshit like that, it's still kinda annoying. Not sure if I just got unlucky while playing on this map, but I feel like people tend to hide on this map more compared to other maps due to its layout. So you'll always have that one guy who stalls the game for like 3 minutes, which doesn't sound like much, but still feels very long considering that all you're doing is just spectating Hale as he aimlessly wanders around like a lost child in a supermarket, just waiting for the point to get unlocked. And it's especially annoying if you happen to die at the start of the game. The next map is Nucleus. Now Nucleus is a King of the Hill map with some slight changes thrown in and turned into a versus Hill map. While I like that they add the pull of some radioactive liquid, still all the games there just feel kinda the same to me. 10% of the game takes place in Hale spawn where people are just constantly trying to leech off Hale for that sweet damage, recklessly knocking him around and in the process probably getting some of their teammates accidentally killed. 40% of the game is just your regular gameplay, and then the other 50% is just Hale trying to catch the 6 engineers and 4 snipers there in those high places on the map that are annoying to get to unless the Hale has a charge attack. Now the next map is Tiny Rock. I would say that visually this map is the most boring one, if you don't count Nucleus since, I mean, it's already a map that we've seen before. Aside from that, Tiny Rock is a pretty solid map. It has a lot of open and closed spaces, and it's not like one or the other necessarily give the Hale or Mercs an advantage, unlike Skirmish. Fuck Skirmish. Aside from that, the map is, well, tiny as the name suggests. I feel like you could play like 3 to 4 matches and you've probably seen everything that this map has to offer. However, it's still a solid map. And now, let's talk about my favorite versus Hale map. Distillery. It has a lot of open and closed spaces, many good spots for engineer buildings, many spots for snipers, and due to its size, matches end up feeling different if somebody chooses to experiment with certain parts of the map. However, it's not too big, and because it's open, it's usually pretty easy to find people who are hiding. Also, I just really like the vibe of this map. I feel like you can make some pretty cool looking Gmod machinimas on this map. With all that said, I think that vs Hale is a great game mode for TF2. It's casual at its finest. Hale is a bit OP, but not in a frustrating manner. It's a game mode that makes you explore the map and experiment more to see what stupid shit you can get away with. and since this game mode is very different compared to regular TF2, it might give less appreciated weapons some spotlight.